Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me in Rightly Dividing a Word. My name is Jay LeClaire, and this is my first video. I have two purposes for my videos. The first is to preach and proclaim the message of Jesus Christ, and the second is to discuss greatly debated subjects that have caused a lot of divisions in churches today. What I'd like to talk to you today about is the power of testimonies. In 1 Peter 3:15, it tells us to always be ready to give an account or to give a reason for the hope that is in us. Now, how do we do that? Especially when we live in a world today that views the Bible as being nothing more than fables, fairy tales, old ancient writings that no longer apply today. Well, I believe the best way that we can do it is to give a testimony. And that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to give you one of my own personal testimonies on how God has worked in my life and how He's changed my life and how He's made His presence known. So here's my testimony. Ever since birth, I've had optic nerve damage in both of my eyes. I've always been told that I could never drive a car, that my vision acuity wasn't good enough. And just to give you an idea of my vision acuity when I was younger, it was 2100, which most laws in the States require either 2030 or 2040. So I had 2100. I've always was told that my vision wouldn't improve because of the nature of my optic nerve damage in both of my eyes, not just one. So I was told that it might improve a little bit, but never enough to be able to drive. So I went through many years believing that I would never be able to drive and just learned to accept it. When I was a teenager, I went to another low vision specialist just to see if it would be possible, and nope, it improved. My vision had improved slightly, but not enough, even with corrected glasses, enough to be able to drive. It wasn't up until 40 years ago when I went in to see my low vision specialist that my vision had actually improved from 2100 to 2050. Now, just so if I wasn't clear enough, good vision is 2020. That's what most people have for that's the norm for good vision, 2020. So she was really shocked. Actually, she was doing that. She was a low vision specialist for many years, and was very shocked that my vision actually had improved that much. So she couldn't explain it. She couldn't explain why how my vision improved that much. But she told me that I was able to drive. That I was going to be able to drive. So that was a real blessing. I was excited about it, and I was praising God because I've always wanted a driver's license, but like I said, have come to accept the fact that I wouldn't be able to drive. She said that I would be able to drive, however, that she wouldn't sign off on the paperwork for the Department of Motor Vehicles unless I went to a driver's rehab. Now, driver's rehab, that was going to be another issue. Driver's rehab was very expensive. It was a little over $300 per session. I needed 21 sessions, and I didn't have even $300 in my bank account. So I brought that into prayer. I went to and I just prayed about it. I asked the Lord. I said, Lord, if this is your will, I know that you're going to meet you're going to meet the needs. You're going to meet, you're going to see that I get the financial means to get into these courses. And so this is where God's blessing really starts coming in. First, my vision starts improving. And then I found out that from the most unlikely source that these driving courses were going to be paid for. And that was a real blessing. And I'd like to go on with the whole entire testimony, but maybe in another video I will give the whole entire testimony in much greater detail, because there's so much to tell. But what I wanted just to share is that there's no way that I could have somehow engineered or willed myself to have better vision. I know there's a lot of people say, well, you know, we will ourselves, we will it to happen, or we somehow engineer it to happen. Well, the fact of the matter is, I didn't somehow will my vision to improve. The fact of the matter is, I had come to learn to accept the fact that I couldn't drive. No longer bothered me. I learned that, I had enough sight to, walk around, ride a bike, and do everything else but drive. So I know that there's no way that I could have just willed myself to have, better vision. And so if that wasn't enough to convince you, like I said, the financial aspect of it. And so it came from the most unlikely source, and actually the source that came through was the Association for the Blind. And they don't normally pay for someone to get their license. They're more in the business of helping people to, for assistance and get the proper tools they need for living. I happened to call up my old case worker through the Association for the Blind that I haven't talked to in 15 years around this time. Just not even asking her that if they could help, because I know they made it clear in the past that they couldn't help with me get my license, even if I could get my license, which she wasn't in support of me getting my license in prior years. So I called her up, and it was a real blessing, because she was getting ready to retire. She had like 2 or 3 more weeks to retire. I was just asking if she could maybe direct me in the right path so I could try to get some kind of financial aid for to take these courses. She says, well, she wasn't quite sure what she could do or do anything at all, because once again they made it clear that the Vermont Associate for the Blind they don't really pay for the driving courses. So anyway, she called me back about 2 days later saying that they were going to pay for it, and they're going to pay for all my 21 lessons. So it was a true blessing. Now, this isn't something that I created myself, that I caused myself. Yes, I made the phone call, but I had no control over the fact that if they were going to pay for it or not. I had no control over the fact that my vision had improved. And this is just one example of many examples that I have. I have many testimonies where what God has done in my life and how He's made Himself known in my life. And there's many different ways that we can share the gospel and share our reason why we have the hope within us. But one of the best ways is testimonies. No one understood that better than the Lord Jesus Himself. In Mark 5, after delivering a man from legions of demons, He tells the man in Mark 5:19 to go and tell his friends what the Lord has done for him. And the key word in that is tell. To go back and tell everyone what the Lord has done. So, and there's other examples in the Bible where Jesus would heal someone, and they would go and that's really the theme of the whole Gospels. Jesus says in John 4, unless you people see signs and wonders, you'll by no means never believe. So that still stands as today. So I would encourage you to look at the thousands of reliable testimonies that are out there, how other similar testimonies to mine, or even more remarkable. I heard of a testimony once that really I still think about now and then, of a Jewish woman that served time after being liberated from in the concentration camps. She made it her life goal to go and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I think she went into the ministry. I'm pretty sure she was a missionary, or she got into some ministry work. But she was sharing her testimony in one of her talks. She was sharing her testimony about surviving the concentration camp. And this was, of course, many years later. And one of the people that were in the crowd was one of the SS officers that was in that camp. And he recognized her, and she recognized him afterwards. And then he asked for her forgiveness. And she forgave him. And it was just a real powerful testimony when I heard it, because that's a testimony of forgiveness. You know, this woman forgave someone that, you know, just killed her, or helped participate killing her family and her friends, and you know, how she was tortured in the camp. And you know, that's something not of our human nature to do. Our human nature is to go and get revenge. But God's nature is to forgive and to move on. So, and there's thousands of other testimonies just like that. And I encourage you just to, you know, perhaps even if you're curious, just to look up other testimonies. One of the great ways is right on YouTube. I see a lot of great testimonies on YouTube of how God and what God has done in their lives. And, you know, I realize there's a lot of counterfeits out there too. And then there's a lot of people out there that that these big evangelists that you see, some of them in these big crowds, and they'll pick out some, you know, person that's a handicapped in the crowd that's a paid actor, and, you know, they'll bring them down and they'll do this fake healing. I'm not talking about testimonies like that. And, you know, testimonies like that really really hurt, and that's what they're designed to do. They're from the enemy, and they try to discredit the real power of God and what He's doing in people's lives. So I would just encourage you to do that. And this, like I said, this was my first video, and I'm going to be making others, and so I hope that you will join me with my next video. And my next video is going to be what do you have to lose? And so until then, God bless, and I hope that you were touched by this video, and I just thank you for joining me.